and increasing the concerted efforts at the regional, sub-regional, and international levels is very vital in this context. I just thought that maybe we could show you some of the figures. And my name, Masanori Kobayashi. This is not the right file that I have wanted to share. I'm not so sure if it can be shown on the screen. But I just wanted to mention that according to, for instance, some of the studies, about the US 10 to 23.5 billion dollars annually is being lost because of the IUU fishing. So this economic loss is one of the key factors as well for the reasons to eliminate IUU fishing. World Trade Organizations adopted the agreement on harmful fisheries subsidies that entered into force last year, and this is really the critical international instrument to reduce this subsidy, eliminate subsidies that lead to the IUU fishing. Port State Measures Agreement that was also developed and adopted under the auspices of FAO that came into effect in the year 2016. And last year, Equatorial Guinea and Tanzania acceded to this agreement. Now the Port State Measures Agreement have 38 parties out of the 86 parties in total. So this PSMA is one of the also the critical instrument for eliminating IUU fishing, and its implementation has to be facilitated. A number of the actions articulated in this agreement, notifications of the IUU fishing vessels is one thing. Communication between the port authorities is another measure that has to be facilitated. Satellite data analysis is also a very important elements to ensure effective aerial and maritime surveillance as well. The catch documentation schemes, sustainability and traceability certificate are some of other measures that are also very important as a countermeasures against IUU fishing. The regional fishery management bodies that you see covering a number of the sea areas around the world also play a very key important role in identifying the fishing vessels, sharing the information, and promoting concerted actions to eliminate IUU fishing. You see some of the areas not necessarily indicated with the acronym of RFMO. It means that there are still some sea areas that are not necessarily covered by IUU, by regional fishery management bodies. There are a number of challenges in this respect. For instance, lately, increasingly, the people are suggesting that this underreporting of the fish catch is one of the very, very tricky and important challenges. Pacific Island countries already has a Pacific Forum's regional maritime surveillance center. This is very effective with the support of other partner countries. A number of other regions or sub-regions in Africa, for instance, are asking for the similar regional setup and also trying to increase the regional and institutional capability of undertaking a marine surveillance, such as in, for instance, the Gulf of Guinea or West Indian Ocean or west coast of Africa. In this panel, I really look forward to listening to distinguished panelists as to what they are actually trying to promote as effective concerted actions to eliminate IUU fishing and to promote sustainable fisheries at the global level. I thank you for your kind attention, and let's listen to the panel discussions with our key interests. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Masanori Kobayashi. And now it is my pleasure to invite our moderator for this session. Remember, it's Plenary 5, Combating IUU Through Community-Led Solutions and Science-Based Management. To lead us through this panel discussion is none other than Dr. Atanasio Brita, who is the Vice President, REA Mozambique. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Thank you.
Thank you, MC. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, friends of our ocean. Welcome to this Plenary 5, which is combating illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing through community-led action and technology. It's truly an honor for me to moderate this important session. To begin, I would like to introduce our 6 panelists to join me on stage. I'll start with Dr. Venancio Gomez Soares. Can you please come to the stage? All right, you can take your seat, please. Next, I'll call on Mr. His Excellency Issa Timami. Thank you. We'll have Dr. Ruth Perry. Please come on to the stage. Next, we'll have Jonathan Werner. Can you please join us on the stage? And next, we'll have Dr. Matthew Camilleri. Please. And last but not least, we'll have Mr. Tom Gouda. While we wait for him to settle, just announcing today's program, as we all know, it's divided into parts. This will be a moderated session. We'll have then shorter floor announcements, commitments that we will have at the end. So before inviting our distinguished panels to take each one of them by sharing their perspectives, allow me to share a few words about myself and the work that brings me here. I am from Mozambique, just turned 55, and my passion for the ocean and fisheries began in childhood, fishing for tilapia in fish ponds, in rice ponds, and swamps of my hometown, Quelimane, Mozambique, central Mozambique. That passion grew into a career in fisheries research, and today I serve with REA, which is a conservation organization dedicated to strengthening community resilience through community-led management and sustainable coastal waters in Mozambique and beyond. Please follow my work at rea.org, LinkedIn, and other media outlets. So just last week, Mozambique marked a milestone with the inauguration of the Southern African Regional Center for Combating IUU Fishing. This achievement reflects commitments of governments and communities across Southern Africa who are on the front lines of combating IUU fishing, patrolling with watchtowers, boats, and other means to safeguard livelihoods, traditions, and the ocean itself. With that spirit, it's my pleasure to hand it over to our first of the distinguished speakers. So I will call on Dr. Venancio Suarez, who is the Deputy Executive Secretary of National Resources of the Gulf of Guinea Commission. He holds a degree in international law, regional organizations, and has extensive experience in blue economy and maritime security, with a strong focus on governance and regional cooperation in the Gulf of Guinea. So, Dr. Gomez, please, you can take the floor.
Excellency, good morning, everyone. I will do my speech in French. Avant de commencer, je voulais demander le vidéo.
Ask the technicians to launch the video, please. Please show the video, technicians.
Declaration and architecture marks the beginning of a new geopolitical era adopted in Cameroon by 25 West and Central African states. Under the aegis of the Gulf of Guinea Commission, this strategy establishes a solid maritime security architecture. The overall plan is based on 7 vital commitments and is effectively organized around 3 operational pillars. These include intervention clusters, the blue economy, institutional coordination, and global partnerships. The first pillar focuses directly on the productive and ecological dimension of our oceans. Its main objective is to promote and safeguard strategic activities such as sustainable fisheries, aquaculture, maritime tourism, investment in offshore energy, and innovation in the marine biotechnology sector. To make this vision viable, the United Nations joins forces with the Luanda-based Gulf of Guinea Commission, establishing a strong and autonomous regional fund within the operational theater. Maritime protection is divided into 5 autonomous operational zones, each under the responsibility of a multinational coordination center. Zone A, in the south, operates from Luanda, ensuring the maritime stability of Angola and the 2 Congos. Zone D, headquartered in Douala, covers Cameroon, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and São Tomé and Príncipe. Zone E, in the eastern Gulf of Guinea, operates from Cotonou, covering Nigeria, Benin, and Togo. Further west, Zone F, coordinated from Accra, brings together Ghana, Côte d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. Finally, Zone G, headquartered in Praia, brings together Guinea-Bissau, the Gambia, and Cabo Verde, and is currently in an active phase of technical implementation. In short, Yaoundé 2025 transforms political guidelines into concrete action. With an architecture fortified against transnational threats, Atlantic Africa stands interconnected, secure, and fully in command of its own collective destiny.
Je crois que tout le monde
I can see that everybody at least has seen the video. Now, what is the this Commission of the Gulf of Guinea? This Commission of Gulf of Guinea is a regional organization. It was founded in 2001 with 9 countries. The objective being maritime security. This objective of maritime security in Gulf of Guinea, it involves illegal fishing in maritime security. As you know, all crimes are committed in the sea. They use fishing boats, be it drugs, be it any other illegal traffic. It happens in the Gulf of Guinea. And a very important instrument in Guinea in the Gulf of Guinea is the Yaoundé architecture. This was a very important aspect of the Yaoundé maritime security. This architecture was put in place in 2013 by 3 organizations. The first is the CAC. The second is ECOWAS, and the third is the Commission of the Gulf of Guinea. As you all know, the Yaoundé architecture is composed of 25 countries, of which 19 are coastal countries and 6 landlocked countries. Why? Because these countries also have links they have internal waters that go all the way to the sea. So this Yaoundé architecture has 3 aspects which are very important. So the Code of Conduct of Yaoundé, these are the regulations that define all issues, be it on law and rights. In maritime security. The second pillar is the Yaoundé Coordination Center. This is a center that collects all the information, be it at the regional level, from the north and the south. The third pillar is the zone creation, as you have seen it in the video. Africa, especially the coastal area, is very large, so it's very difficult for countries from the north or those from the south to transmit direct information to the information center in Yaoundé. That's why they created the zone. So we have Zone A, Zone F, Zone D. So these are important instruments to fight against illegal fishing and all the crimes in the sea. So these are very important things. So what are the challenges? As you know, I would really like to thank Madam Amina Mohamed and the ambassador, Mr. Peter Thompson, because they have understood that the Commission of the Gulf of Guinea is a very important organ to enable us to reach the countries, because whoever fights against illegal criminality in sea is the national marine, and this national marine must be in contact with all these organs so that we can all fight the criminality at sea. There is a partnership that brings together the Yaoundé Declaration and the Yaoundé Architecture. These are 2 important instruments. The Yaoundé Declaration has 7 points. In these 7 points, we took the Yaoundé architecture, including maritime security, where this instrument must be really aligned and respect all control matters in the maritime sector. And the last challenge is collaboration. This is very key. As you have seen, there are so many organs that have talked about illegal fishing. So this collaboration will be very crucial to enable us to achieve a concrete objective. Thank you.
Gomez. So next, we will have our speaker, His Excellency Issa Timami. Please, you can take your stage. Let's have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Good morning. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, distinguished ministers, partners, and friends of the ocean. I'm honored to join you today as a representative of Kenya's county governments, subnational institutions that stand at the intersection of global ocean policy and local community in Kenya, and Kenya fisheries management is a devolved function under our constitution. This means that the responsibility for safeguarding our seas is not abstract or distant. It is carried daily by fishers, beach committees, county officers, and coastal communities who live with the consequences of every management decision we make or fail to make. I come to this panel not to speak of grand national strategies alone, but to share what we are learning at the local level, where the ocean is not a policy concept, but a source of livelihood, identity, and survival. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing is a global threat that costs the world economy an estimated $23 billion annually and undermines the food security of millions. But for small-scale fisher in Lamu, Kwale, Kilifi, or Mombasa, fishing is not a statistic. It is the site of a foreign trawler operating where it should not be. It is the use of destructive nets that destroy breeding grounds. It is the desperation of returning home with empty hands because stocks have been depleted by those who take without accountability. The global community has rightly focused on international enforcement, port-state measures, and traceability in supply chains. These are essential, but I wish to emphasize today that the most durable solutions to IUU fishing are built from the shoreline outward, rooted in communities that have the knowledge, the motivation, and the permanence to protect their waters over generations. In Kenya, our most important local innovation is the Beach Management Unit, the BMU, established under our National Fisheries Management and Development Act of 2016. These are community-led bodies that bring fishers together to manage their local fisheries, monitor landing sites, and promote sustainable practices. The BMU model reflects a principle I believe this conference shares. Those closest to the resource must be closest to its governance. I am pleased to share a success story from Osini Island in Kwale County, where the local BMU took the initiative to remove destructive fishing gears. They established a community conservation area with a no-take zone and build shared space for collective decision-making. Over the monitoring period, they achieved an 80% increase in fish biomass and a measurable recovery in coral cover. This was not imposed from above. It was chosen by the community, built on local knowledge, and sustained by the tangible benefits of restored fish stocks. It demonstrates that when communities are empowered with legitimacy, information, and a fair share of benefits, they become the most effective guardians of marine resources. I want to speak directly to the theme of partnership that defines this conference. Kenya's county governments manage the nearshore waters and artisanal fisheries that sustain our coastal communities. Our national government carries the essential responsibility for international waters, deep sea fisheries, and compliance with regional and global frameworks. This is a sensible and necessary division of labor. But IUU fishing does not respect jurisdictional boundaries. Illegal operators exploit gaps between local, national, and international enforcement. Transshipment at sea, the use of flags of convenience, and the infiltration of illegal catch into legitimate supply chains. These require coordinated, multi-layered responses. Your Excellencies, the ocean connects us all. The fish that swim in Kenya waters may migrate through waters of many nations. The markets that consume our catch are global. The climate that shapes our ecosystems is a shared challenge. But the communities that depend on our seas are local, they are permanent, and they are our greatest hope for sustainable management. In Kenya, we are learning every day how to empower these communities, how to ground their wisdom in scientific evidence, and how to connect their efforts to national and global wisdom in scientific evidence. We do not have all the answers, but we are committed to the journey, and we welcome partners who share our belief that the future of our ocean will be secured not from conference halls alone, but from beaches, landing sites, and fishing villages, where the ocean is lived every day. Thank you, and I look forward to our continued collaboration.
Thank you, Excellency. I should make a proper announcement and introduce you. His Excellency is a prominent Kenyan lawyer and politician who currently serves as the governor of Lamu. So thank you so much for that local perspective in your county. So next, we'll try to make this faster, Dr. Perry. I know it's challenging, but we'll have. Can you announce, please?
So good morning, dear colleagues, all their excellencies, ambassadors and high commissioners. If you can please just come at the back there. Thank you.
Thank you. So next in our programming, we have Dr. Perry, who is the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Oceans, Fisheries, and Polar Affairs at the United States Department of State. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you to the OOC organizers for bringing us together here in Mombasa. A fitting place to have this conversation, and certainly as we look out at the beautiful ocean landscape, it reminds us that the oceans indeed do connect us all. The people at the center of this issue are fishers, the coastal families, and the community leaders who are doing the hard and daily work of managing shared resources fairly and sustainable. Their security and livelihoods depend on healthy fish stocks, and any serious effort to combat IUU fishing has to be grounded in the interest of all of us. IUU fishing is one of the most complex and consequential challenges facing our shared ocean. It threatens the livelihoods of coastal communities that depend on sustainable fish stocks for food, generational, and financial security. IUU creates market distortions that disadvantage law-abiding fishers, including artisanal and small-scale fishers, and it's increasingly tied to transnational crime, from forced labor to drug smuggling, threatening not only countries' sovereignty, but regional stability and global security. But I think we all are aware of these facts. That's why we're sitting in this room and coming together at a venue like OOC to discuss this important issue. As the United States is the world's largest single country market for fish and fish products, and the 5th largest wild seafood producer, and also one of the largest exporters of high-value wild fisheries, the United States has a direct responsibility in closing the gap on IUU fishing. To meet the IUU fishing challenge with the urgency it demands, the Trump administration has elevated combating IUU fishing to a national and international economic security priority. Addressing IUU fishing at the scale it demands requires a cross-regional approach. Since 2019, the United States combats IUU fishing under a U.S. domestic law called the Maritime Security and Fisheries Enforcement Act. On the African continent, that has produced real results. 3 interagency highlights from just 2026 alone include the United States-sponsored Obangame Express exercise in the Gulf of Guinea. African partner nations joined U.S. forces to refine detection and deterrence against IUU fishing, narcotics trafficking, and human trafficking at sea. Second, NOAA Fisheries partnered with the International Law Enforcement Academy, a State Department administered facility in Botswana, to train law enforcement officers, attorneys, and officials from 10 African nations on vessel inspections, case building, and prosecution of fisheries violations. And if we don't have the enforcement, we all know that we can do as much monitoring and surveillance that we can, but if we are not following through with enforcement, the gap with IUU fishing continues to expand. And lastly, this August, for the first time under an African bilateral agreement, officers from Africa will travel to the United States to participate directly in U.S. Coast Guard fisheries enforcement operations in New England. But this just highlights a few examples. As many of us are oceanographers, scientists, and researchers, we know that science underpins all of this effort. Effective fisheries management sets the rules for what is legal, reported, and regulated fishing, and that has to be grounded in data. We continue to share monitoring tools, stock assessment capabilities, and technical expertise with partners to promote the legal, sustainable need for fisheries. Finally, I want to highlight 2 announcements. First, on accountability. The United States recently announced the first ever use of visa restrictions to target foreign nationals who are responsible for, complicit in, facilitating, or benefiting from IUU fishing and related activities that undermine effective fisheries management, monitoring, and/or enforcement, including corrupt officials and traffickers of endangered fish species. The message is clear from the U.S. If you profit from illegal fishing, you are not welcome in the United States. Second, the United States is announcing $52 million in commitments to counter IUU fishing around the world. And I want to be clear of what that actually means on the ground. These are not abstract figures, they're not estimates, and they're not pledges. It is actual dollars that we intend to span every ocean basin where IUU fishing continues to threaten communities and ecosystems. Taken together, these commitments reflect a simple conviction that sustainable fisheries require sustained investment, collaboration, and solid partnership. And with enforcement, science, and the communities part of this partnership, we can get back to healthy oceans. Thank you, and I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Perry, for bringing that perspective from the government of the United States. So next, my panelist is Jonathan Werner, who is the Fish Fund Manager at the World Trade Organization, where he is an expert in multilateral development instruments and the implementation of the World Trade Organization's agreement on subsidies, on fishery subsidies. That's correct. Please.
Thank you. It is a genuine pleasure to be here and to take part of this panel. The timing of this Our Ocean conference could not be better because yesterday marked the 4-year anniversary of the agreement on fishery subsidies. after 2 decades of negotiations. And last September, the agreement entered into force. It is the first binding multilateral agreement that targets the public funding going into harmful fishing practices. I would like to highlight 2 important aspects of the agreement. Let me start with the prohibitions. The agreement prohibits subsidies to vessels determined to have engaged in IUU fishing, subsidies linked to overfished stocks, unless they are designed to help rebuild such stocks, and subsidies for fishing on the unregulated high seas. These are waters beyond national jurisdiction and outside regional fisheries management organizations. The second important aspect of the agreement is transparency. WTO members have long been required to notify their fishery subsidies under the WTO agreement on subsidies and countervailing measures. The agreement now requires, the fisheries subsidies agreement, members to, in addition, notify the type or kind of fishing activity for which the subsidy is provided, as well as other information including the relevant fish stocks, biological status, catch data, conservation, and measurements to replenish stocks. Members also must notify fisheries management regimes, memberships of RFMOs, and determinations of IUU fishing. Now, transparency is key for the agreement to work and its implementation. Transparency will generate accountability, and this is central to the attainment of the objectives of the agreement on fisheries subsidies. But we all know the truth. We all know that by themselves, rules do not change reality. And adopting these rules and implementing them is really what's going to make the difference. This is where the Fish Fund comes in. It is the dedicated implementation arm of the agreement, the vehicle that supports those who need it the most to integrate international rules and transform them into practice. The agreement has a built-in financing mechanism, the fund itself, and it is financed via member contributions. And I'm really happy to announce that we have benefited from the generous contributions of 18 members that amount to more than $20 million. Now, the fund exists to help developing and LDC members to support their need to put the disciplines in place, to manage their fisheries not only in a more sustainable way, but within the framework of international global trade. And we do this as a partnership, in close cooperation with the FAO, IFAD, and the World Bank, in addition to the WTO. Members receive not only funding, but the tailored expertise that they need to abide by the agreement. I'm pleased to report that in less than 9 months since the agreement entered into place, we have gotten 26 grants underway, close to $3 million in commitments and disbursements that have already been destined to applicants. We just closed the second call for proposals, and the demand for members is considerable. The steering committee is now considering the next batch of grants, which will be announced really soon, and we expect a third call for proposal to come forth during the second half of the year. So let me close by echoing the words that I think connects this panel, connects this conference, connects several of the discussions and the central themes that are front and center. Transparency and cooperation are a must. Without transparency, there's never going to be accountability, and without cooperation, we cannot tackle a problem of this magnitude. So the agreement is in force, the fund is fully operational and delivering results. Disbursements are happening right now. What remains is for members to take up on the promise that was made to them, that support is here. So I'm happy to engage and answer any questions. So for those members that have ratified the agreement, please apply. The tools exist, and we are here to help. Thank you very much for your attention. Looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Werner, for bringing that perspective from the World Trade Organization. So we will proceed, and next we will call on Dr. Matthew Camilleri. Dr. Camilleri leads the Fisheries Operation and Compliance Team with the Agreement on Port State Measures within the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Please.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. 31 years ago, the international community came together to adopt by consensus a code of conduct for responsible fisheries under the FAO Constitution. Illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing directly conflicts with the core principles of this code of conduct. In fact, we may refer to the activities of IUU fishing to be following a code of conduct for irresponsible fisheries. Each of the three components of IUU fishing have detrimental effects on fish stocks and the marine environment. Combating IUU fishing is a term that is broadly used and unfortunately often reduced to just referring to illegal fishing. But each of the three components need to be addressed. Eliminating illegal fishing requires bolstered efforts to foster a culture of compliance, effective enforcement, and effective action against illegal fishing. Addressing unreported fishing requires curbing non-reporting, misreporting, or underreporting, whether in contravention of rules or otherwise, because information is critical for fisheries management. Addressing unregulated fishing requires strengthening of national, regional governance frameworks, or establishing these frameworks where they do not exist, in conformity with internationally agreed measures and standards. Breaking this down further, to combat IUU fishing, we need states to fulfill their flag, port, coastal, and market state responsibilities. We need strengthened cooperation among states. We need an effective information exchange flow and effective enforcement and action, and all of this buttressed by capacity development. When we refer to state responsibilities, well, the minimum responsibilities have been enshrined in a suite of international instruments that have been developed over the last 4 decades. In the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the Fish Stocks Agreement, the High Seas Compliance Agreement of the FAO, the Code of Conduct, the Agreement on Port State Measures, the WTO Agreement on Fisheries Subsidies, the International Plan of Action to Combat IUU Fishing, Flag State Performance Guidelines, Catch Documentation Scheme Guidelines, Transshipment Guidelines, Gear Marking Guidelines, and many more. Ladies and gentlemen, if states fulfilled the minimum requirements that are enshrined in these international instruments, we will not be here talking about IUU fishing. At the cornerstone of this framework is the Agreement on Port State Measures, celebrating its 10th anniversary since its entry into force. It is a unique treaty because it requires port states to control vessels of other states. It is a multilateral control treaty. Parties immediately got together to make this treaty actionable, developed a global cooperation framework, fostered the culture of compliance, and created a unique and official global information exchange system. Currently, there are 81% of coastal states in Africa that are party to this agreement. And 60% of the information flow under the PSMA comes from Africa. But the burden should not only be on port states. Flag states need to step up their action. They need to strengthen their control over their fishing vessels, especially when they are fishing on the high seas. Coastal states need to monitor, control, and survey their waters, whether it is by their own vessels or even when there are agreements with other countries to fish within their own waters. And market states should ensure that the trade in their products does not come from IUU fishing. As living marine resources, as you know, are transboundary, and multinational fishing fleets operate across the globe, cooperation is key in combating IUU fishing. Countries need to develop and strengthen and implement multilaterally agreed policies, share monitoring, control, surveillance assets, engage in joint enforcement actions, engage in exchange of compliance information and other information that is so crucial to conduct risk assessments and enforcement procedures. Information exchange has been a game changer. Digitalization of vessel compliance information and electronic exchange of this information has transformed how states combat IUU fishing. There are two now global information exchange systems, one under the PSMA, the Global Information Exchange System to share compliance information, and the FAO Global Record on Fishing Vessels, which shares information on the identity and authorization and ownership of the fishing vessels. In conclusion, over the last decade, we have seen strengthened commitments in fisheries policies, a momentum of adherence to international instruments, engagement in information exchange, cooperation, and above all, an awareness of the threats of IUU fishing. But we must continue with this momentum to strengthen cooperation and capacities of all states to be in a stronger position to combat IUU fishing. In this way, we could consolidate an effective global fisheries compliance network, the foundation of which is already in the making. It is through this network, ladies and gentlemen, that we strengthen enforcement, close gaps, and stay ahead of IUU fishing. It is through this network that we can ensure sustainable fisheries, protect marine ecosystems, and safeguard livelihoods and food security. It is through this global fisheries compliance network that we can safeguard our oceans for future generations. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Matthew. Just to say, we have some more pressure on our time, unfortunately, but we will take Tom Gooder, who is our next speaker, who is a prominent fisheries leader in East Africa, serving as the regional chairman of Lake Victoria Beach Management Unit Networks and the national chairman of Kenya's BMUs. Please, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, moderator, for that nice introduction. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, if there are beach management units in this room, and more so the consumers of fish. Gooder is going to speak on behalf of the community. I am partly the problem, and I am largely the solution. This room, I'm aware, is endowed by experts in marine ecology. We have biologists in this room. We have environmentalists in this room. But the problem we are facing in IUU is less about what I've mentioned. It is more about human behavior. And that is the community I represent. We are always told fish has no problem. We may have a few problems in the ecology in terms of environment, water quality, but largely it is our behavior that is destroying the fisheries and that is undermining the efforts of having a fisheries that can sustain East Africa, Kenya, and the globe. I represent an institution that is co-management, the regional BMU network, with about 1,069 beach management units cut across the 3 East African partner states. That sounds huge, and indeed it is huge. I believe it is the largest single co-management unit in planet Earth. And therefore, it poses a lot of challenges, communities coming together and look at how large that is. So I'm going to look at effectiveness of co-management. And largely, co-management has been adopted in natural resource management, wildlife, forestry, and fisheries. It works effectively because you bring on board communities that benefit directly from their resources. Each time a resource is depleted, the people who suffer most are the community members. So co-management brings them together. But then we have to pause and ask a question. How do we effectively ensure that co-management works? There has to be genuine community participation. When I talk about genuine community participation, it's not just about mentioning in regulation that we are going to create, for instance, beach management unit. It's about ensuring that they are engaged effectively in governance. And if you talk about IUU, they have to be engaged in licensing, they have to be engaged in monitoring, and they also have to be engaged in enforcement. That's when communities will actively take role. Number 2, we need to have clear roles on shared responsibility. In East Africa, for instance, countries are struggling, but we have made a step, because I also sit at the regional body, bringing together all the 3 partner states. And we are looking at how do we harmonize our regulations so that it is clear the roles that are going to be played by each and every stakeholder. There also great need not just to ask communities to conserve the ecosystem. There has to be a lot of emphasis on the benefits that they're going to derive from that effort. Communities in this lake are largely subsistence, small-scale fishers. A lot of what they get is food. So if there are less fish, they'll still go look for food. And that's why they'll use crude methods and crude gears to get that food. So every effort must ensure the communities understand why they have to do and conserve the fisheries. The other aspect would be to look into the economic and social well-being. And here, we must single out and see how best do we still allow communities to earn income without necessarily going into capture fisheries. And so government and institutions and partners must put in deliberate effort to diversify. And now it is easy because you see, I have over 26 years experience in this field. Removing a capture fisher to go and do dairy is not an easy thing done, but it's a good thing to say and display. Removing a capture fisher to go and do farming is similarly not very easy. But now with cage fish farming coming up, it is important for partners to look into that window and support these communities to venture into alternative livelihoods. It is also important that we promote the value chains and ensure that everything works as we, thank you so much. We ensure that everything works and profits are generated back into the community. And lastly, I would want to speak to coordination. Because if we are going to ensure that this is done, then we are going to have largely a coordinated co-management team. And therefore, we are not just going to look at the vertical, because largely in the community, a lot of emphasis has been put on what the BMUs can do. But people are not asking themselves the question, what are the other horizontal partners doing? What is government doing? What is development partner doing? What is the scientist doing, etc., etc. These horizontal linkages are very important in ensuring that co-management works and works effectively. Thank you so much. I would love to engage you more on the same subject.
Thank you, Mr. Tom Guda, for bringing that perspective from the grassroots. As you have noticed a few times, some alerts and cues, we are out of time for a moderated Q&A session, but we'd like to thank our panelists. Please remain there. And thank you for sharing those perspectives, which are mostly global, subnational, regional perspectives with solutions that help us move forward in this aspect of combating illegal, unreported, unregulated fisheries in the world. So this has been a very interesting session, at least to hear. We were not able to discuss, but we will have an opportunity. Anyone who wants to put questions to our panelists, you will see them moving around. So please reach out and have meaningful discussion and follow-ups. Okay? All right. So will they? Okay. So next, there's a request for our panelists. Please stand up so that we can have a picture, a group picture. Okay.
Very briefly, the moderator will be making the announcements to call up those who will be doing the announcements, pronouncements, and also the commitments. But we're kindly requesting that we do 1 minute each, because I've been made aware that His Excellency the President is indeed in the building, and we would like to do lunch. I guess some of you will join him also for lunch, yeah, so that we are able to utilize that time and then come back here for the closing ceremony. Please be mindful about time, just 1 minute each for those who will be doing the commitments. Thank you.
All right, so we will move to floor announcements. Our panelists, if you may, you can return to your original seats. Thank you. So we will move on to the floor announcement of voluntary commitments. Please come to the stage. Plashka Webster, the head of International Technical Cooperation Office within the Aquatic Resources Authority of Panama at the Government of Panama. Is Plashka in the room? Plashka Webster from Panama, can you come to the stage? All right, so I'm told she's not here. So next, we'll have Ms. Jinsuko Shaw. Please come to the floor, who is the Director of Maritime Capital Policy Division in the Bureau of Maritime Affairs, Agriculture and Fisheries within South Korea's Busan. You have 1 minute, please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Jin-Suk Cho, Director of the Maritime Capital Policy Division, Busan Metropolitan City. It's a great honor to share Busan's new commitment at the 11th Our Ocean Conference, the first Our Ocean Conference to be held on the African continent. Busan successfully hosted the 10th Our Ocean Conference in 2025, and we continue to expand global ocean cooperation through the PNLG Forum this year and the AIVP World Conference in 2027. We are also very pleased that the Republic of Korea will host the 2028 United Nations Ocean Conference together with Chile. Busan hopes to contribute to that journey by sharing practical ocean solutions with the international community. Today, Busan is pleased to announce a new commitment, the establishment of the Smart Aquaculture Big Data Center. Aquaculture is no longer only a local industry. It is directly connected to global food security, climate resilience, sustainable fisheries, and the blue economy. However, many aquaculture operations around the world still rely heavily on experience and traditional practices. In the face of climate change, disease outbreaks, rising production costs, and increasing pressure on marine ecosystem, experience alone is no longer enough. Busan believes that the future of aquaculture must be supported by data, artificial intelligence, and international cooperation. Under this commitment, Busan will establish the Smart Aquaculture Big Data Center from 2025 to 2027. The center will integrate aquaculture data generated by farms, research institutes, and public organizations, and build a data-driven platform to support smarter, more resilient, and more sustainable aquaculture. Through this platform, Busan aims not only to strengthen Korea's aquaculture industry, but also to create knowledge, tools, and models that can be shared with other coastal cities, island communities, and developing countries facing similar challenges.
Sorry, we have to wrap up.
Okay. Busan will continue to connect technology, ocean industries, and international partnerships. We hope this commitment will serve as a practical contribution to the path toward the 2028 United Nations Ocean Conference. Our goal is clear: to help transform aquaculture into a smart, resilient, and sustainable industry, and to turn local innovation into global ocean action. Busan will continue working with the international community for our ocean, our heritage, and our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jinsku. I will next call Ibrima Saidi. Can you come to the floor? Ibrima Saidi is the Chief Executive Officer of Blue Ventures. All right. So while Ibrima comes, please also Joyce, please stay next to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Blue Ventures, we are committing between now and 2030 to work across 10,000 communities across the global tropics and with 400 frontline community organizations, because we know they are the best option and potential for us to achieve the outcomes by 2030. With me, I have one of those frontline community organizations that we are committing to continue to work with, and present her to you to share more about our commitment. I welcome Shalika.
Thank you, everyone. The chair, distinguished delegates, I'm here representing the men and the women in the small-scale fisheries committees in Africa. I wish to highlight the urgent realities facing the small-scale fishing communities across many coastal regions. Fishers are experiencing increasing aggression and encroachment by industrial fishing vessels, often in areas traditionally reserved for artisanal fisheries. This compounds to widespread illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, which was part of the conversations that has just been finished in the plenary 5 conversation, which continues to deplete fish stocks and undermine livelihoods. At the same time, the small-scale fishers, women fish processors, and youth remain underrepresented in decision-making processes, despite being among the groups most affected by fisheries and oceans policies. The consequences are clear: declining catches, falling incomes, growing vulnerability, and inadequate social protection for millions who depend on fisheries for food security and employment. I say today that Blue Ventures had made it possible for small-scale fishers to be in this room, for their voice to be heard. They're not just telling our stories, but giving us a platform for our stories to be told and for our challenges to be looked into, which is what we request of the House today, that these challenges should be looked into and the small-scale fishers and their livelihoods should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Next, please come to the stage, Joyce Keingati. Joyce Keingati? No? All right. So Joyce Keingati is project manager at the Community Action for Nature Conservation. You have 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much. Delegates, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of my organization, Community Action for Nature Conservation, I'm pleased to announce our commitment, which is advancing community-led ocean governance and sustainable fisheries in coastal Kenya. We recognize that small-scale fisheries contribute to approximately 90% of Kenya marine fish landings, yet they face governance, tenure, representation challenges. And as an organization, we've been working with local communities over time and also partnering with government agencies. So we specifically commit to strengthen the fisheries co-management institutions within Mombasa, Kilifi counties in order to enable them to be more functional and play their rightful mandates and contribute to sustainable fishing practices and contribute to healthy fisheries ecosystem. And also commit to securing tenure rights for fish landing sites along the Kilifi Creek in Kilifi County to enable support investment in sustainable fisheries and infrastructure and community livelihoods. To strengthen the leadership and participation representation capacity of women and youth fish workers and traders in small-scale fisheries governance through mobilizing and organizing them into operational groups, and also support meaningful participation of fishing communities in national and county planning and development processes so that their voices and aspirations are centered in these processes and are responsive to their needs.
Thank you so much.
So I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Joyce. Sorry for the pressure. Next, we will have Effie Vesaz. Is Effie Vesaz, who is the Marine Strategy Director at Dahari, the Comoros. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I am here on behalf of Dahari, a Comoran NGO, and the fishing communities of the Comoros with whom we work. So the Comoro Islands sit at the heart of the second richest marine region in the world, but its reefs are amongst the most threatened. For hundreds of thousands of people along the coast, fish from these reefs is the main source of protein and income. When these reefs decline, food security goes with them, especially for the poorest. In 2021, the Fishers Association Malezi Mema established the country's first permanent no-take zone, setting up inclusive and legitimate governance systems that integrate the support of local authorities. A few days later, fishers were already reporting increased catches and the return of fish species that had disappeared. These results have inspired other communities to implement their own no-take zones, with 3 new ones officialized at the start of this year. We will now drive further replication across the country by collaborating with national authorities and partner NGOs. We began with 1 no-take zone managed by 1 fisher community. Today, we commit to helping fishers across the Comoros to develop, by 2030, a national network of permanent no-take zones, reef by reef, community by community, towards restoring the country's 10,500 hectares of reefs on whom 350,000 coastal people depend for their food security. Healthy reefs in the Comoros can only be delivered by empowering the fishers who depend on them for their livelihoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Effie. Next, allow me to call in to the stage Emma Ardi. who is the Minister for Water and Flooding, Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs of the Government of the United Kingdom. Thank you. You have 1 minute, please.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Jambo. Thank you to the Government of Kenya for hosting us here in Mombasa, and congratulations on being the first African country to host our Ocean Conference. It has been inspiring to collaborate with you all in driving ambition action at a time when our oceans are under growing pressure. This morning, I got to see this firsthand, having just returned from a beautiful community-led conservation project, and to see the coral planted by His Majesty King Charles III. The UK is providing additional funding for programmes supported by the UK Blue Planet Fund. This includes £6.7 million to ProBlue, the World Bank Blue Economy Multi-Donor Trust Fund. We are also contributing £2.2 million in additional funding to the Ocean Risk and Reliance Action Alliance, which mobilises finance for coastal resilience, and £5 million to the Global Plastic Ocean Partnership. This creates national partnerships between governments, businesses and civil society to tackle plastic pollution. The UK also puts great value on the importance of coral reefs. On Tuesday, I signed the high-level global commitment on protecting climate-resilient coral reefs on behalf of the United Kingdom and its overseas territories. And I am delighted to announce, on behalf of the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, the second cycle of the Rapid Deployment Mechanism, which provides catalytic funding to help accelerate action on marine protected areas, OECMs, and effective management. Alongside protecting our ocean, we are also supporting fishing domestically. In May 2025, we announced the Fishing and Coastal Growth Fund, a £360 million investment in the UK fishing industry over the next 12 years to support seafood businesses and coastal communities across the UK, helping to attract and retain the next generation of fishers and revitalise coastal economies. Our focus is clear, but we know there is much to do. Thank you. Asante sana.
Thank you, Ms. Emma Hardy. Last but not least, please come to the stage, Mr. Brian Paul Jamanzaris, who is the member, House of Representatives of the Philippines.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning. As head of delegation, it is an honor to represent the Republic of the Philippines at the 11th Our Ocean Conference. As an archipelagic nation of more than 7,600 islands, the Philippines recognizes that healthy oceans are essential to food security, livelihood, biodiversity, conservation, climate resilience, and sustainable development. Today, I report our progress and announce new commitments for OOC 11. Since OOC 10 implementation of our coastal and marine ecosystems management program has increased from 70 to 80%. Progress under Target 3 of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework has increased from 20% to 90%. Supporting our global expanding marine protection measures from less than 2% today to 16% in the coming years. The designation of the Tuba-Taha Reefs Natural Park as particularly sensitive sea area has been completed, and under the Great Blue Wall Initiative, we committed 60 marine protected areas by 2028 and have delivered 64 by 2026. All are now being monitored and supported nationwide, with all 8 of our committed marine scientific research stations already under construction. The Ocean Environment Policy Task Force has also been established and is advancing a national oceans environment policy with progress at 66%. Building on these achievements, these are the commitments of the Philippines for OOC 11. 1, we commit to developing a national marine spatial planning framework. 2nd, we commit to implementing the National Blue Carbon Action Partnership Roadmap to protect and restore blue carbon ecosystems. Third, we commit to finalizing the national program on coral reef conservation recovery, which is currently at 40%. Fourth, we commit to continuing a nationwide study on coastal shifts, coastal hazards, covering 845 coastal municipalities and cities. And fifth, we commit to advancing the offshore mineral and aggregate resource assessment of the Philippine seas. As of 2025, 7 of the 12 identified priority areas have already been surveyed. Excellencies, the challenges facing the oceans require stronger international cooperation in financing, technology transfer, scientific partnerships, and capacity building. The Philippines will continue working with all partners to ensure these commitments become a reality. The Philippines chooses action, science, sustainability, and partnership. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much. Asante sana at mabuhay.
Thank you, Mr. Brian, on behalf of the Philippines. So these are our commitment makers. If you have some follow-up questions for what they have just said, just follow them around the lunch or anywhere that you might find them. Right? So to the moderator. Sorry to...
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We'll do a photo op very briefly. Thank you so much. A big round of applause for Dr. Anastas. Thank you so much, Dr. Atanasio Brita. I know I gave you a lot of pressure together with the panelists, but we have come to the end or the conclusion of Plenary 5. Thank you very much to Brian Paul Lamanzares, Emma Hardy, Effie Versas, Joyce Kiangati, Ebrima Saidi, Ms. Jinsuk Cho, and Plashka Webster. We appreciate your time. I now invite on stage Mr. Dan Mwangi from the State Functions, the Office of the President, to come and make very critical announcements. Please pay attention, and then we move on from here. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you so much, my brother Nimrod, for such a wonderful time. May I just make the following announcements in line of how we are going to transit from here as we await for the closing ceremony. May I announce that we are expecting to start the closing ceremony at exactly 3 p.m. Kenyan time. And that means that we are supposed to be settled early enough to allow His Excellencies, the President, who will be joining us in the closing ceremony, to start off or to be here a few minutes to 3 p.m. So we are requested to be back here by 2 p.m. We are also going to exit this venue to allow for a security sweep and another arrangement by the protocol team in terms of how we are going to sit during the closing ceremony. We have different luncheon venues that has been prepared. The heads of delegations are expected to proceed to the main restaurant where His Excellency is already waiting for the heads of delegations. So you proceed direct to the main restaurant at my left. The rest of us, we have a setup down here for our luncheon. So immediately after here, we proceed for lunch. Kindly be informed that only those with overlays will be allowed to attend the closing ceremony. So ensure you have an overlay so that we don't get mixed up during the closing ceremony. With those few announcements, may I request that we be upstanding as we proceed towards the luncheon venues. Let's ensure we're back here by 2 p.m. as we wait for the closing ceremony. Thank you so much, DJ. You can give us some background.